and this is Begum Samru, the courtesan who commanded an army. Alright, so I want to talk about Delhi. Not the Delhi of traffic jams or lukewarm metro rides or that one uncle that always has a strong opinion on partition. Or maybe those random folks staring your souls inside out. When I say Delhi, I meant the old Delhi, Delhi. Shahjahanabad, the city of red sandstone and narrow gullies, and a history so layered that you could spend a decade standing at Chandni Chowk and still not understand the half of it. Speaking of Chandni Chowk, you must have walked through Chandni Chowk probably multiple times, possibly complaining about the rush, the crowd. Do you know who designed Chandni Chowk? A woman, eldest daughter of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal. She built the entire bazaar in 1650, like 1560 shops, a central pool that reflected moonlight so beautifully. People started calling it Chandni Chowk. Moonlight Square, that means. And that name stuck for 400 years. Okay, so before we go any further, let me give you some context. The Mughal court at its height was extraordinary and also completely unhinged in ways that no Netflix drama has adequately captured yet, I guess. You had an emperor who built the Taj Mahal for his dead wife. Genuinely romantic or genuinely excessive. Depends on your perspective. You had brothers trying to kill each other for the throne every generation. You had a court full of poets, merchants, and visiting Europeans who wrote memoirs with the titles like Travels in the Mughal Empire and described everything in the breathless awe of someone who had genuinely never seen anything like it before. And somewhere in the middle of all this chaos and grandeur, and frankly, a lot of fraternal homicide, there were women in the history books, written almost entirely by women, described as wheeled and decorative. And the stereotype about Mughal women was that they were kept behind closed doors and like they were disempowered, like peripheral to real power. I would like to respectfully and thoroughly disagree with the stereotype using receipts. Jahanara Begum, the woman who basically ran the empire. Jahanara Begum, born in 1614, she was the eldest surviving child of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal. When her mother died in 1631, she was only 17 years old, like 17. And Shah Jahan, being the most powerful man in the subcontinent, grief stricken and inconsolable, handed her the imperial seal and made her the Pacha Begum, First Lady of the Mughal Empire. She was 17, and even I was 17, and I could barely manage my own sleep schedule and the caffeine intake. This woman was handed the seal of the empire. She managed their entire royal households, raised her 13 siblings, and became her father's closest confidant. And gradually, she became so influential that both her father and brothers sought her counsel on matters of state. 13 siblings. I cannot stress enough. And she also somehow found time to invest in ships docked at Surat and maintain trade relations with the Dutch, built five major architectural structures in Shah Jahanabad alone, write a biography of the Sufi Sant Moinuddin Chishti, and produce works of poetry and Sufi philosophy. At this point, she is not a historical figure, she is a productivity influencer. But here's the part of Jahanara's story which kinda saddened me because when the War of Succession came, when her brothers started their spectacular, catastrophic war for the throne, she sided with Dara Shikoh, her favorite brother, who lost the war. Aurangzeb won and he executed his brother, and her father was imprisoned in Agra fort. Jahanara went with her father voluntarily into captivity. She stayed with Shah Jahan until he died in 1666, managing his household in a prison for nearly a decade out of pure loyalty. Like uncomplicated loyalty. She is buried at the Nizamuddin Dargah under a simple marble tomb open to the sky with an inscription she wrote herself. Let me read it out. Let no one cover my grave except with green grass, for this very grass suffices as a tomb cover for the poor. She designed the most famous market in Delhi. She ran an empire when she was 17. And she asked for grass on her grave. Roshan Ara Begum, the one who won. Jahan Ara's younger sister, Roshan Ara is the complicated one. History has quietly decided to not be very fond of. As Roshan Ara did what Jahan Ara refused to do, while Jahan Ara sided Dara Shikoh. Roshan Ara picked the side of Aurangzeb. She picked the winning side. She fed him information. She served as his political strategist during the War of Succession. She maneuvered him. She was by every account brilliant at this precise, or we can say ruthless, art of court politics. And she had all what it takes to be there. Aurangzeb won. Roshan Ara became the Pacha Begum in her sister's place. And then Aurangzeb being Aurangzeb, Roshan Ara was having too much fun and too much influence over people. He restricted her movements considerably. She died in 1671 before she could see how it all turned out. History has not been kind to Roshanara, partly because she opposed the more sympathetic figures, partly because she was so ambitious that women of that age were not supposed to be. But she built Roshanara Bagh in 1650, which still exists and people still walks over it without knowing her name, and our people still know who Roshanara was, like most of the people. Now this one is my personal most favorite, and this is Begum Samru, the courtesan who commanded an army. Farzana Zebun Nissa, born around 1753, began her life as a courtesan, a nautch performer, or a court dancer, probably around the age of 11 or 12 when her family fell into hardship. She then became the consort of Walter Reinhard Sommer, European mercenary commander. She accompanied him to battlefield and she learned military strategy. When Reinhard died, she inherited the independent territory of Sardhana, granted by the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, and commanded the army of 4,000 soldiers. According to texts, she later converted to Christianity and became Joanna Nobilis after Joan of Arc. The pictures depicted her shows her as a turban wearing, hookah smoking, and a strong appearing lady holding courts among us Nawabs and other people. Her mansion in Old Delhi, Bhagirath Palace in Central Market, still stands, or we'd say crumbled or undervalued, or we can say underfunded. By any chance, if you go there, maybe you'll remember her now. And then there's Zainat Nissa Begum, Aurangzeb's daughter. She chose entire different path. She never married. She devoted herself to scholarship and architecture. She built 14 caravanserais along the highway connecting Awadh to Bengal, rest houses for travelers, pilgrims, and the poor people. And she also funded the construction of Zinat al Masjid, the Cloud Mosque in Daryaganj, Delhi. The Cloud Mosque. That is why they call it. Like how their dome stands against the sky. And it's also said that she kind of helped Marathas, her father's enemy, in the war somehow. I mean, we don't know why or what was running behind this scenario, but it is said that she kind of helped Marathas against her father. Even after all this, she outlived him and she was respected by his successor, as in the words of one account, she was the living memorial of a great age. There is something almost unbearably poetic about that. A daughter who defied her father quietly, surviving him and quietly becoming the memory of him. And then there's Zinat Mahal, the one who saw it all end. She married Bahadur Shah Zafar around 1840, and we know what tragedy happened to Bahadur Shah Zafar and his empire. And they were exiled to Rangoon. In 1862, Bahadur Shah Zafar died, and his wife, Zinat Mahal, she had to live 24 years without him in prison. Finally, in 1886, she died. She outlived him, and she had to bear all that trauma alone. In prison, she tried to secure succession for her son even after all this, and it all became meaningless at the end because it all ended anyways. These were not women who accidentally stumbled into power. These were warriors, builders, and diplomats who navigated patriarchal structures with extraordinary precision. Badass, as one historian put. It's not just defiance, it is knowing when to lose small battles to win larger wars. And the streets they built, the mosques they funded, the gardens they planted still exist. They are still there. You have walked through them. You just didn't know whose footsteps you were following. Now you do. And now you'll remember them whenever you'll be in Daryaganj, whenever you'll be around that Cloud Mosque and Chandni Chowk and whatnot. Thanks for watching. Maybe see you in the next one. Hopefully. Sunshine.